Welcome to my video on histograms part 2. So in this section, we're going to compare histograms to other graphs. So the first question here is use the stem and leaf plot to construct a histogram. So these are students' grades in math class. So if you look at the key, it says 6/1 equals 61. So these would be 62, 66, 74, 75, 76, 77, 79, 80, 82, 86, 86, 88, 89, 91, 94, 96, 98, 98, 98, and 99. And you'll notice here, I don't have many bars here. So we're going to have to count by 2. So we're going to write 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And if we want an odd number, we have to go in between two even numbers to make that bar. So we want 61 to 70. Now, we have to make sure we're looking at both rows because 61 to 70, 70 could be in this row. So we have 62 and 66, so that's 2. So let's make a bar with a height of 2. And remember, we're going to put the frequency over the top of it. Now we're going to look for grades between 71 and 80, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I have to count this one because it's 80. So we're going to make a bar up to 6 and come down, shade it in. And remember, in a histogram, the bars are touching. And let's put the frequency over the top. 81 to 90. So I'm going to start here with 82. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I don't have a 90. So we're going to go up to 5. I have to go in between 4 and 6. And make sure they're touching. And put a 5 above this bar. And finally, 91 to 100. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So make sure they're touching. We're going to go in between 6 and 8. And we're going to put a 7 over the top. Okay, now let's answer the questions. It says, in which interval did most students fall? So if you look at this, the highest frequency is 7, so the interval is 91 to 100. Now it says, is this the mode? So is 91 to 100 the number that appears the most often? No, it's an interval. Remember, mode is the number that appears most often, so you can't tell. So we're going to write no, comma, you can't tell the number, and please make sure you're writing this down, that appears the most from looking at an interval. So I'll give you a couple seconds to finish writing that. Now you can tell what the mode is by looking at the stem and leaf plot. So we could look at the stem and leaf plot and find that it's 98. But the interval that the most students fall is 91 to 100, and that is not considered the mode. Okay, how many students are in this class? So we're going to add the frequencies. 2 plus 6 plus 5 plus 7 is 20. So we're going to write 20 students. Now I'm going to write the rest of the answers up here. I want you to write the answers below the question. And the reason why I'm doing that is so we can refer back to these two graphs. So I'm going to write number 3 up here, but when I write the answer, make sure you write it underneath number 3. In which interval does the median fall? So remember, the strategy was to divide your data by 2, like cut your data in half because median is the middle number. So I know I have 20 students. So half of 20 is 10. So I know the median is going to fall where the 10th and 11th number are. Well, here I only have 2. And from here to here, I only have 8. But from here to here, I have 13. So the 10th and 11th number is going to fall right in here, which is 81 to 90. So if I want to find the median interval, I have to cut the data in half and find out where that number would fall. Okay, number 4, what is the mean of the data? Now I can't find the mean from here, so I have to look at my stem and leaf plot. And I would add all of these numbers up, and I've already done that for you. So it's 1,694, and I have to divide by how many numbers I have. So how many numbers do I have? Good, 20. And so when I divide that, I get 84 7/10. So that's my answer. Make sure you're writing your answer underneath the blank. And number 5 said, what is the range of the data? Remember, that's the biggest number minus the smallest number. So here's the biggest, here's the smallest. So we're going to do 99 minus 62, and that will equal 37. So the range is 37. Biggest number minus the smallest number. Okay, turn the page. And now we're going to use the line plot to construct a histogram on fundraiser participation. Okay, so we are going to look at the line plot to construct the histogram. Now you notice we don't have any frequencies over here, but once again we're going to have to count by 2s. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Okay, so we're going to look at the line plot and find out how many students sold between 0 and 4 items. So all the X's are students. So from 0 to 4, I'm going to block this off here and count these up. And when I count these up, I get 12 X's. So there's 12 students. So I'm going to make my bar go up to 12. And I'm going to come right down here and color it in. And remember to put a 12 above. And when I make my next bar, I need to make sure they're connected. So now I'm going to count the X's from 5 to 9. So I'm going to block this off. There's 6 here, and 2 more is 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm going to go right between 10 and 12. And I'm going to go right over 5 to 9. Shade it in, and put the frequency above it, 11. Okay, 10 to 14, I'm going to block off. And we have 2, and 3 more is 5, and 1 more is 6. So I'm going to go up to, 6. And come down and color it in, and put a frequency of 6. And then I'm going to block off 15 to 19. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go right between 2 and 4. And color it in and put a 3. And then 20 to 24, I have 1, 2. So I'm going to go up to the 2 here and down. And notice when I constructed my histogram, the bars are touching. Okay. Notice all the intervals have the same amount of numbers as well. 0 to 4, I know you're not thinking, but that is 5 numbers. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 5 to 9, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so on and so forth. Okay, now we're going to use this information to answer the questions below. Now, you're going to see the questions on your paper, and I'm going to write the answers to the questions over here. What I want you to do is make sure you're writing the answers underneath the problem. So number 1 says, how many more students sold 0 to 4 than 20 to 24? So 0 to 4 is 12. And 20 to 24 is 2. So what I'm going to do is do 12 minus 2. And what's 12 minus 2? Good, 10. Make sure you write that underneath question number 1. Okay, question number 2 says, how many students sold enough items to go to the mega party? And in parentheses, you see 5 or more. So they have to sell 5 or more to go to the mega party. So this one is 5 or more. This one, and this one. So I'm going to take 11 plus 6 is 17, plus 3 is 20, plus 2 more is 22. So underneath number 2 on your paper, write 22. Which interval contains the median of the data? Okay, so I have to add all these up to figure out how many data points I have, or I can count the x's, it doesn't matter, but it's easier to count these. So 12 plus 11 is 23, plus 6 is 29, plus 3 is 32, plus 2 is 34. So I know there's 34 data points. So I have to think about what half of 34 is. And half of 34 is 17. If I didn't know what half of 34 is, I could do 34 divided by 2. So the median is going to fall where the 17th and 18th number are. So if I go from least to greatest, I have 12 numbers here. No, it's not going to fall there. But if I go from here to here, I have 23 numbers. So yes, the 17th and 18th number is going to fall right in this interval, which is 5 to 9. Okay, number 4 says, what percent of the students sold 15 to 19 items? So whenever I'm finding a percent, I always need to start with a fraction. So I need to figure out how many people sold 15 to 19 items. If I look right here, I see that it's 3. We just figured out how many students we had in this data set, which was 34, because we added up the frequencies. So 3 out of 34. Now I'm going to show you using a percent proportion once again. But as always, remember, you can always type 3 divided by 34 in your calculator. The only problem is that's going to give you a decimal, and then you're going to have to move it 2 to the right to get a percent. Whereas if we do the percent proportion, we will have our answer without having to change the decimal to a percent, because our answer will be the actual percent. So 34 times x is 34x. 3 times 100 is 300. Now we're going to divide both sides by the number in front of the x, which is 34. So please make sure you're writing this down. The 34s cancel. And x will equal, now you get a really long decimal in your calculator, so it says 8.82 something, something, something. But we want to round to the nearest tenth whenever we have more than 1 after the decimal. So we're going to underline the tenths place and look to the right. If it's 5 or above, we give it a shove. If it's 4 or below, we let it go. So we're going to let it go, and it's 8.8%. Okay, let's move on to our last and final page, where we're going to look at circle graph and histogram comparison. So this is Rennie's monthly budget here. And look at this circle graph. And it says, can we create a histogram using this circle graph? And the answer is what? No. And here's why you can't. Because in a histogram, we have intervals. So because there aren't any intervals. Okay, number 6 is, are there any other types of graphs that we could create using the circle graph? And the answer is, we could make a bar graph. Okay, because a bar graph does not need intervals, whereas a histogram is a type of bar graph that needs intervals. Okay, now we're going to compare and contrast the two graphs below. So we're going to look at these two graphs, and we're going to compare and contrast them. So if we look at this, the orange and the orange match, and so this would be D. And then the green and the green match, so this would be C. And this would be B, the blues. And then A would be the pink. So go ahead and put those letters in. And we notice we have a height of 4. Write this in. A height of 16. A height of 24. And this one is halfway between 4 and 8, which would be 6. Okay, so we have 4 plus 16 plus 24 would give me 44, plus 6 would give me 50. So we know there are 50 math grades. And so I want you to look here, and this is 4 out of 50, and this is 8%. So do you see a relationship here? Yes, the frequency of each interval is the same percent as the graph, because 4 out of 50, if I double 50, I get 100, and if I double 4, I get 8, and 8 out of 100 is 8%. Okay? If I have 16 out of 50, if I double 50, I get 100. If I double 16, I get 32. So 32 out of 100 is 32%. Same thing here. If I double 24, I get 48, so that's 48%. And if I double 6, I get 12, so 12%. Okay, so the comparison, I want you to write the frequency of each interval is the same percent as the circle graph. Okay, so that's how they're the same. Now let's figure out why they're different. So look at the histogram and look at the circle graph, and notice that a circle graph, or the histogram rather, has intervals and the circle graph uses percentages. And another difference that you should notice is that this uses bars to chart the frequency. Okay, so the under contrast, so this is how they're different. The histogram has intervals and the circle graph uses percentages. And then I also want to write the histogram uses bars to chart the frequency. Okay, that concludes our histogram part 2 notes. Go ahead and pause the video if you're still writing, but if you're not, I hope you have a great day.